Hey, welcome back everybody. So we got the transmission together, and before we finish this up, I wanted to show you something here. I attached the shifting mechanism to it, so I want to show you that it does shift through all the gears. This is the 1-2 shifting shaft. This is the 3-4, and this is the 5th gear. Reverse is down in there, so you can see it moves in and out pretty easy. So if we push it down, that's 5th gear there. That would bring the collar or the shifting fork down and engage the synchronizer to run 5th gear. And if we hold it in again, we actually engage reverse. You can hear reverse has a real positive detent in it. And then we pull it out. That is 2nd gear. That's 1st gear. You can see these shafts working. There's the detent that engages whenever it's pulled down and goes into 1st gear. Okay, and then we're neutral again, and that's 4th gear. You can see the detent there, and then that's 3rd gear there. And this transmission is designed to use 3rd gear. So from here, if you were building one of these for the street, you would have 2 gears. There'd be a bearing, like a needle bearing thing that would go on here, and then you'd slide your gear down on, and there's a synchronizer ring that would go on top, and then you'd have this piece here. Of course, this would have a collar on it, and there'd be a synchronizer on the bottom of this, and then that collar would slide down and engage the gear. You can imagine the gear sitting down here with the synchronizer on top, and the collar would slide here. The shifting fork would move it, and that would engage that gear. It's held. The shifting fork is held on with the dowel pin right here. And of course, since we're not going to be needing 5th gear, we're not going to worry about putting it on. So all we need is just 1 gear here. And the reason why we need this gear is because we have to lock in this set of gears. So if I didn't put this on and they're not to retain it, there'd be nothing to keep that the shaft from migrating down, and actually it would drop down in, and it would, if you remember our little shim that's right above that collar on that bearing on this input shaft, that shim would make contact with the bearing and the seal, and it would destroy it. And I actually had that happen one time. So on this one, all we're going to do is just use this as a spacer. Okay, and we're going to start a nut on here, and these nuts, they have to be locked in, so I'll show you how to do that if I can get it started here. Doesn't have to be started too much. Let's try this one here. Might start better. Yeah, just a little bit. Okay. And then this one here. So we have a spacer here, and then this little collar that this bearing would ride on. Okay. And that's going to be our spacer on this side. So then this just goes down and locks in solid there, and then put the nut on there. So then we're just going to use the impact, and you can usually hold this with your bare hand. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a glove on just to make sure. Put the glove on and hold it. Watch your ears. That's it. Okay, now from here, there's a little recess on either side. So what we want to do is just take a chisel and just kind of bend this little flange at the top of the nut into that recess. Do the same thing in this one. A little bit more. And just a little bit. There we go. And that locks that nut in. Now to take that off, it's pretty easy. The edges here where the threads are, this is all hardened, so it'll just cut new threads in the top of the nut there. And you can reuse these a few times, but that's what we're going with. All right. So next step, and I've already cleaned the gasket surface. Normally there'd be a paper gasket here, and you can reuse those many times. They never really seem to leak. They have some kind of wax coating on them. I'm really not sure what exactly is on them, but they don't stick too often, but sometimes they do. This one here actually did, and it tore. So I only have one left, and I'm not really willing to sacrifice it on this transmission, so we're going to just go ahead and use some of our red sealant on here. Very small amount is needed. Don't have to go crazy with this. If it does leak, we can just take it off and reseal it and add a little bit more on. Now I want to be careful right here because there's a couple holes here that allow oil to drain out of that area, and I don't want to seal that off and possibly cause any kind of problems. So I'm going to go around all the way over, and that'll squeeze out a little bit, and that is just, I mean, just a little bit is all we need. Probably got too much right there. I'll spread that out a little bit. And I had a lot of squeeze out on the case halves. This here probably have a little bit of squeeze out, I'm sure. We always do, but just need a little bit, just enough to seal it up. Then we got our 5th gear cover, and we have our sharp corner here, which we're going to put right there. So we're going to place that on, and the bolts here are several different lengths. So the longest one on this side, like that, and I don't want to move that around too much. Okay, this one goes here. And, oops, this one goes here. Short one there, short one over here. And this one here is a mid-length, which I lost, so I just put a washer on there just as a spacer. It's fine. It's fine. Bring it down. Just snugging that up like that, and then I'll go ahead and just give it a little bit more. Don't have to go crazy with this. Even with the gasket on there, you don't have to really torque down too much. So check it. It seems fine. Okay, now from here, I actually want to pull the shifting mechanism off of this. Whenever I put these in the car, I always like to have the shifting mechanism off of it because the arms stick out and they can catch on wiring and whatnot. It's a lot easier to put it in without this on. Then after it's in, then we'll slide this down, put our bolts in, and then you just use a long extension and you can reach them pretty easy. So that's no problem. All right, next order of business is going to be, flip it up here. Flip it. Flip. And make sure you guys can see this. Yeah, you can see it pretty good. All right, we're going to put our vehicle speed sensor in. And the speed sensor looks like this. Has a magnet on this side and like a little copper coil, I think, on this side here. There's a little bit of copper windings right there. Has a little gasket here. And whenever we put this in, we want it facing that direction. We want it facing toward where the ring and pinion is. This little magnet here, we want it facing toward where the ring and pinion is. So we're going to place that in. Now to make sure the clocking is correct on it, let me eyeball that. And you can see if you look down inside there, there's a little reluctor ring that it reads off of. So we're going to slide that down in. And then we're going to just give it little love tap into place. And then we got a retaining clip that goes on it. And this will actually help clock it correctly so that it's not aimed at some kind of weird, bizarre angle. And I'm off just a little bit on it, which is about normal. That happens. So what we'll do, take our trusty crescent wrench and we'll just change the clocking on it. Just kind of grab hold of it with the crescent wrench. You should be able to grab hold of it and move it, maybe. I'll do it this way. Yeah, it's locked in there pretty good, so we will resort to other tools. Here we go. Now we got the channel locks out. Oh, it's getting real now. So all we'll do is just kind of rotate that a little bit, possibly. And the case is in the way, of course. Come on now. There we go. Now we're free. Bring it back a little. And there we go. Seems like whenever they get in there, they go in and just kind of seize. But once you start moving, then they'll move free. You can see I can actually move it pretty free now. I don't know why it does that, but it seems to do that. And add a bolt here. Well, this is real life here. This is, I had a bolt here one time in my life for this. And it's right here. Here we go. I thought I had it right here. I must have set it aside. Just a little 10mm. It's small, so we don't have to go crazy with that either, torque-wise. And then the dipstick, which goes in there and locks in. So we're good there. And only one thing left on this project. Well, there are actually two things left. And put this up here. You can see, should be able to see that. Yep, right here, the drain plug. Now we have not put the axle seals in, and I'm going to be picking up those later today. And I made a tool to put those in. They make tools to put them in. I made it's a homemade deal. It's a little bit bulky, but works good. And you don't have to go crazy with that. It's an aluminum case. It's a steel bolt, so you don't have to go nuts with it. But let's turn this around here. Now let's flip it this way. They're about, I think they quoted like 88 pounds dry, right around there. So there it is. We assembled our Isuzu based GM 5-speed. Now we do have to put the clutch hydraulic throw-out bearing in and all that, but we'll do that right before it goes into the car. And we'll have a video on that, and we're going to show you how to put the next episode. It'll be the final episode for this. We'll show you how to put the axle seals in. I have a pretty sweet, very simple homemade tool to do that with. So hopefully you enjoyed the build, and see you. We got one more final episode to go. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.